Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time there were two children named Hansel and Gretel. They lived in a small cottage at the edge of the forest, with their father, a poor woodcutter, and their stepmother. One evening the family had nothing left to eat but a few crusts of bread. Hansel and Gretel went to bed hungry. As they lay in their beds they heard their parents talking. "There are too many mouths to feed," said their stepmother. "We must take the children into the thickest part of the forest and leave them there." "Never!" cried their father. But the next morning Hansel and Gretel's stepmother woke them up early. "Get up," she ordered. "We're going into the forest to chop wood." She handed them each a crust of bread for their lunch. With a heavy heart the woodcutter led his children into the forest. As they walked along, Hansel secretly dropped a trail of breadcrumbs along the path. When they reached the middle of the forest, the woodcutter said, "Wait here, we'll return at sunset." Hansel and Gretel waited all day, but their father and stepmother didn't come back. Soon it was dark among the thick trees, and Gretel was frightened. "Don't worry," said Hansel, cuddling his sister. "We'll follow the trail of breadcrumbs I dropped along the path. They will lead us home." But when the moon came up, they couldn't see any crumbs. "Oh no, the birds must have eaten them all," whispered Hansel. Hansel and Gretel crawled up under a tree and fell fast asleep. The next morning they wandered through the forest until they came to a little cottage made of gingerbread and cakes. The children were so hungry they picked the cakes off the house and crammed them into their mouths. Just then the door opened and an old woman hobbled out. "Come in, children," she said, smiling. "I've got plenty more food in here." The old woman fed them well and put them to bed. But Hansel and Gretel didn't know that the old woman was actually a wicked witch who liked to eat children. When Hansel and Gretel woke up, the witch grabbed Hansel and locked him in a cage. She set Gretel to work, cooking huge meals to fatten up Hansel. The weeks went by, and every morning the witch went up to the cage, asking Hansel to hold out his finger. "I want to feel if you're fat enough to eat," she said. Hansel, being a smart boy, held out an old chicken bone instead. The witch's eyesight was so bad that she thought the bone was Hansel's finger. One day the witch got tired of waiting for the boy to get fatter and decided to cut him right away. Grabbing Gretel's arm, she said, "Go and check if the oven is hot enough." And she pushed Gretel toward the open oven door. Grinning horribly, she licked her cracked lips. She was planning to eat Gretel too, and couldn't wait for her delicious meal. "I'm too big to fit in there," said Gretel, guessing the witch's wicked plan. "You silly girl," cackled the witch. "Even I could fit in there," and she stuck her head inside. With a great big shove, Gretel pushed the witch into the oven and slammed the door shut. "Hansel, the witch is dead," cried Gretel, unlocking her brother's cage. As the children made their way out the house, they found chests crammed with gold and sparkling jewels. They filled their pockets and set off for home. Their father was overjoyed to see them. He told them that their stepmother had died while they were gone, so they had nothing to fear any more. Hansel and Gretel showed their father the treasure. "We will never be hungry again," he cried. And they all lived happily ever after.